Hello, my name is Josh Stiles and I'm the project coordinator of something called the Northwest Rare Plants Initiative. It's a botanical conservation programme based in northwest England and funded by Chester Zoo and Lancashire Wildlife Trust. And what I want to do today is talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing around the Greater Manchester mosses and give you a bit of a sneak peek into my own garden. About 150 years ago, where we had a massive, gigantic peatland known as Chat Moss in Greater Manchester, something pretty terrible began to happen, and that is the increase of agricultural and urban sprawl, which meant that Chat Moss, this enormous peatland, was drained, fragmented and seriously degraded. That meant that these fragments of peatland that were left, that weren't converted to agriculture, they were seriously degraded and lost a great many species. Things like carnivorous great sundew and white-beaked sedge and all these charismatic peatland specialists were lost from this fantastic extensive habitat. Since then, however, a great deal has happened. People like the Lancashire Wildlife Trust and Warrington Borough Council Rangers have done a tremendous job working with people like Natural England to restore these isolated, fragmented pockets of mossland that are left. And what that's meant is that this degraded habitat is improving in terms of its quality. And these improving pieces of mossland are once again suited to some of the special plants that used to inhabit them. Things like bog rosemary and the great sundew I mentioned. These are things that are now being reintroduced to the Chat Moss area around Greater Manchester. And it's these species I want to talk to you about. In 2018, the Northwest Rare Plants Initiative started to do something, and that was to look at some of these isolated pockets of mossland left that were improving in condition. Places like Risley Moss and Astley Moss were subject to suitability assessments. And those assessments were to judge whether these sites are suited to some of the species that they have lost over time. Things like this beautiful endangered great sundew. This is actually a species that was described in the 1800s as formerly frequent over the Chat Moss area. So things like great sundew used to be really abundant, and now of course sadly they went extinct as Chat Moss was fragmented and drained. There are other things as well that used to exist around the Chat Moss area in abundance. Things like this beautiful white-beaked sedge. Now, white-beaked sedge is a really important constituent of many bog communities, particularly bog pools, where it often is able to form these extensive swathes. And of course, this species that used to be very abundant in the Chat Moss area also went extinct. However, in 2018, the Northwest Rare Plants Initiative, in collaboration with a number of other organisations like the Wildlife Trust and Warrington Borough Council, began to reintroduce these species. And things like white-beaked sedge have increased by at least 3 or 4-fold over the past 2 years alone. Great sundew, that was reintroduced last year in 2019 in the form of 10 plants, has now increased to over 40. There are other reintroduced plants too along the Greater Manchester mosslands that the NWRPI has been involved in reintroducing. Things like this oblong-leaved sundew, the smallest of our sundews, has also been reintroduced. Here it is growing with some lovely bog myrtle seeds, which is another target species that was lost across most of Greater Manchester's mosslands. Bog myrtle is one of my favourite peatland plants. Not only has it got this intense aromatic smell to it, it's also the host plant for over 70 different invertebrates, including 58 moth species, which I think is incredible. One of the moth species that actually feeds on bog myrtle, the rosy marsh moth, was believed to be extinct in Britain until the 19th century, where it was rediscovered. Another one of the plant species that is getting actively reintroduced onto the mosslands is our wonderful wild cranberry. Now this is a species that should be very widespread across the mosslands, but again it was all but eradicated about 150 years ago when chat moss was broken up. It's a wonderful plant, and it's also the host plant for a number of invertebrates, as well as a very special fungus, Exobasidium oxycoccii, which is a plant pathogen. What it does is it distorts the stems and inflates them and turns them into this pinkish colour, which is just beautiful. It's taken decades, but the Manchester mosses are improving in their condition once again, and things like great sundew and wild cranberry and bog rosemary and whitebeak sedge are able to successfully return to these sites. And that couldn't have happened without all of your support, so thank you.